going on, guys? Hope y'all are having a great day out there today. So today we are working on the Typhon 6S. One of the last videos you guys seen with this car, had it out down at the motocross track, and thing was making a terrible noise, clicking, and it was just terrible. And I quickly got it back to the house here after the bash and opened it up, first thinking it was going to be, the rear diff gear was chipped or broken. It turned out to be the input gear. So the new parts have arrived. So I decided to bring you guys along today. Anybody interested in working on the rear diff on the Typhon 6S? Not going to go through all of it and completely bore you, but anybody that's going to try and tear one of these apart, I have it partially torn down from the other day of initially trying to find out what was wrong with it. But what you want to do, obviously, is get the rear wing off of it, taken off of it first. Get the wing off of it, undo your center braces, and then pretty much all you got to do is pull out these 4 screws on the bottom there, and the whole rear diff will come off of there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rear diff off of this thing, or the whole back end basically, and I will bring you guys back in a moment. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get the 4 screws removed out of this thing. These are a 2.5 millimeter. Get these 4 pulled out of here. So most of these cars are all pretty easy to work on, so don't be scared of them, guys. Got a few screws, and now the whole back end will come off. You can leave your center drive shaft in there or pull it out. I had pulled this side off because I was originally just working on the diff, but drive shafts also can come out, and I think the other one did come out. I'm not sure where it went to, but at any rate, so now we got just the whole rear end together here. Now, if you're just working on just changing out the pinion gear, you don't obviously have to do all this. You can pull just the diff out. I am changing the gear on this because it is scratched up a little bit, so I am going to change out this gear also, but I had to pull this out to change the pinion. Now, the next thing we got to do is remove the drive cup here. I think this is a 2 millimeter, I do believe. But, yep. Unwind that out of there. Sorry, I know this is probably kind of close up. I'll move the camera here, but remove the grub screw the whole way, and this will slide off, and then you can then take and pull out your input gear. There's 2 bearings on it. There's one on the inside and there's one on the outside here. But as you can see if I can get this to focus, that gear is really chewed up. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out all the grease in here in the rear diff case and the bits and pieces, because I'm sure there's pieces of metal in here. I'm going to get that stuff cleaned out, and I'll bring you guys back in a moment. All right, guys, well, she's all cleaned up, but upon further inspection, the bearing seal here must have got a piece of the gear jammed in there, because she got chewed up a bit. So I'm going to locate another bearing here. I think I have one of these. Sorry, not angled right. I think I have one of these bearings, so I'm going to go ahead and locate this, but it's definitely good, guys, whenever you're tearing this stuff apart, check over all your bearings, making sure everything's spinning, there's no play in there, and everything's moving freely. This one seems to be in good shape. There's no play in there, and the seal appears to be in pretty good shape. I think this one, well, this is one of the newer sealed ones. Might be the original. I don't remember if I ever changed this out, but this inner one is definitely, it got scored up quite a bit, as you can see, and it's bent. So I'm going to go ahead and locate a bearing, and I'll bring you guys back. All right, guys. Well, we got a new bearing. Just got her snapped in there again. They pop in and out pretty easily, so not a big deal. Anyway, I got the new bearing in there. So now we're going to go ahead and get our new input gear. Get her out of the package. Maybe. It's gonna fight me. And then you can just go ahead and drop that down in there and let the bearing fall out the other end. Like I said, the bearings aren't super tight. Like they're just a nice, perfect fit, but they're not pressed in there or anything like that, so they kind of come in and out pretty easily. But everything should move nice and freely and spin easy. So now I can go ahead and put the cup back on. And you got to get, obviously, it on this direction, because Now where did my grub screw go? Sorry, I gotta look at my grub screw. I'll bring you guys back in a moment. Alright, well, it just fell off the end of the driver and I couldn't find it there for a moment. But anyway, you want to go ahead and you'll see there's a notch right here on the input gear, and that's the side that obviously your grub screw goes on because it snaps in there and it doesn't allow it to pull off because there's a little lip on the end of the input gear there. Go ahead and give that a good little crank. Make sure it's nice and tight, but should spin nice and free. So now this is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and work on the rear diff gear and get that changed out now. Alright guys, well I started pulling a couple out here. I thought I had the camera rolling, but I didn't. But anyway, go ahead and pull out the 4 screws here on the back of the diff gear. And go ahead and just pop that off real gently. Try and leave as much of the grease in as you can. And honestly, I think I'm going to have to put a little bit more in this because it looks like maybe I had some air bubbles in the last time I did this because it seems a little low. So I'll put a little bit more in there to top it off. But anyway, what you're going to want to do next is pop this sun gear off. Well, I'm going to lay down some paper towels here real quick so that put something in it, put it on something clean. We're going to go ahead, pop the sun gear off. It's just got a little locking pin that sits in here. You want to slide that out. And then your diff cup, dry shaft cup, whatever you want to call it, will slide out the back end here. There's a shim usually. There should be a shim, or if it's not, usually most of these need at least one shim on this side of the bearing. So you can pull that off, remove the bearing, make sure that it's nice and spinning freely and there's no play in it. So now we have our old gear. And here is our new one. Now on the gears here, you're going to have a little metal washer and a little orange seal. You want to pop those out and pop those back into there. The rubber seal first and then the little metal shim washer after that. And then you can go ahead and the shim can go on last. If your diff cups are worn at all, they can be a little bit of a problem to get on and off or get your shim in there because you get little grooves worn here, as you can see like that, and it makes it tough to get those shims on and off of there. But sometimes you need a little bit, wiggle it a little bit. Oops, see, I already screwed up, guys. Wasn't paying attention. I forgot the bearing. Don't forget your bearing. Anyway, slide your bearing on there. And where did my shim go? I'm seem to be dropping and losing everything tonight, guys. Don't know where my shim went. Well, I will find another one here and put it on there. I got plenty of shims. Make sure you keep that rubber washer and that sealed down on there. Then you want to go ahead and grab your metal pin again. Slide that through there so that basically it locks. Keeps the rear diff cup locked in there. Get that pin as centered as possible. And then you can go ahead and you'll see the little slot in the bottom of the sun gear. Go ahead and line that up on there. And that's all there is to her. It's all back together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some more oil in this. It kind of looks like I need some more. So I think I'm going to put just a tiny bit more in there and I'll let that set and I will bring you guys back in a moment. Alright guys, as you can see I put a little bit more of the 100,000 in here. That's what I've been running in the front and rear. A couple of cars I've been doing the 100,000 in the front and rear. A couple of them I've done the 100,000 in the back and like 80 in the front. I haven't noticed a tremendous difference with, you know, either one. I mean, other than I know the 100K in the front and rear I've been liking on the bashers. But anyway, there's a gasket here that yours might come off of there whenever you pull it off. Or just line up all 4 holes on the gasket again. This is it right here, the gasket. And basically just go ahead and line your holes up again with that. Sometimes you need to kind of turn this to get the sun gears lined back up again properly. But go ahead and do that. Grab your screw or your driver or whatever you're going to do this with. And I put them in almost all the way, not quite, with the driver, with the drill, should I say. So I like to do the rest of it by hand. Just get them just to where they're just touching. Because you go cranking on this thing, obviously, there's a good chance you're going to strip them out. But, there we go. Alright, get this cleaned up a little bit. And then at that point, I go over them with my hand driver, give them that last little final snug. And that's it. She's all back together. Now, I got a new shim right here. Just going to slide that over the drive cup. And like I said, sometimes it can be a little finicky. Sorry. Trying to keep it in frame here. But they can be a little bit, you got to kind of work them sometimes to get them down over there, over top of the scored up drive cup sometimes. You can take a Dremel or a file and kind of cut those down, which I might actually do here because this one's being a little bit harder to get over there than even I thought. So I'm going to go ahead and basically take down these edges a little bit, and I'll bring you guys back in a moment. Alright guys, well, got our shim back on the bearing here. So now it's easiest because this is the side that obviously the bearing and the shim has to go on. So it's easiest if you kind of tilt the car. If it's still in the car, you know, if you got the whole thing off like this, it's not so bad. But you want to kind of tilt it on one side. It just makes it a lot easier to get that shim in there, especially. Because sometimes these shims can be, they'll fight you. But you want to go ahead and work it down in there. Be careful not to bend that shim, because it's basically a very tiny slot right in between the bearing and the case here. So it's kind of hard to even see on camera, but that's where it's got to go. So once it's in there, everything should move nice and free and smooth. No binding in any spots, any places like that. So this one feels butter smooth. So hopefully she holds up for a while. Haven't had an input gear actually blow apart this way in quite a while, so this was a first. But this Typhon was taking some serious launches out there at the skate park that one day, and I think that's where it happened, because I mean it was dropping out of the air 40 or 50 feet out of the air, so it was having some rough landings. But I'm going to go ahead and we'll work on getting the diff case on this thing next, and we'll get it back together. Alrighty, well, we got our rear diff cover here. You want to go ahead, and usually you got to kind of push the bottom part down first, because if you see here on this cover, might be kind of hard, but right here, there's these little lips down here, and the bottom is always harder to get in. So I always start in try and get the bottom latched in there first. Kind of push down on the bottom, and usually give it a little bit of a wiggle. And she should pop back in there. Make sure that your shim goes back in and doesn't get bound up, and you'll see it down in here if your shim gets bound up or doesn't catch the groove on the case, because you'll see it buckle over down there by the bearing. So make sure you're close. Keep an eye on that when you're putting it all in there. But she looks like it's all seated up now, so I can go ahead and put the 4 screws back in this thing, and we'll finish getting this thing together. Finally get the Typhon 6S back up and running again. The car is always fun. Really enjoy running this thing. And it was kind of a shame I had it down at the track, you know, running this thing the other day, and didn't get very long run time because this rear diff started making all kinds of rackets. Same thing, I just wind them in most of the way and then stop so I can put them the rest of the way in with the driver, because you don't want to strip out your bulkhead, obviously. On most of my 6S cars, I have upgraded these rear bulkheads to the hot racing aluminum ones. I haven't done it to the Typhon yet, but I might do that here soon, because it has helped, you know, the Creighton 6S and all those immensely with not having differential problems. So I might do that on this car here next. As you can see, I have the hot racing front and rear hinge pin brace because I did blow apart one of those. So I upgraded that, and that's what I usually do with all of them. You know, wait till whatever it is that breaks and then change it out and upgrade it. So, all right, well, got the rear diff in there. Thing's spinning nice and free. I'm going to go ahead and put some grease in this thing. I've been using this waterproof Marine 24C. It's made by Quicksilver. Been using this on all my diffs, and it's been working pretty good. I've been pretty happy with the grease so far. Just kind of work the diff around, put some blobs, all the way around it so that it gets, obviously greased everywhere. So once you get a bunch of it on there, go ahead and work it around a bunch. And that's really all you need. Some guys get crazy with the grease. If you put too much in there, I like to put a little bit actually on the cup there, just so that, but all that grease most of it will fling off anyway and be gone. There's a stuff called Red and Tacky that works really good too, but I don't have any of that at the moment, so I've been using this waterproof marine stuff, and it's been working pretty good. So, well, she's all back together. I'm going to go ahead and get this back bolted on the car with the same 4 bolts on the bottom, and I'll bring you guys back when she's almost finished up. All right, guys, well, as you can see, I'm just winding in the 4 screws and getting the rear bulkhead bolted back on there. Pretty easy. I mean, honestly, guys, these cars are pretty easy to work on. So don't be afraid to tear into them. I think a lot of people just get intimidated by all the screws and not knowing if they're going to put the pieces back in the right spots. And honestly, it's kind of hard to really screw them up. Like I said, there's a manual out there. There's lots of diagrams. And there's lots of people out there online, that can help you guys if you run into any problems or snags. And like I said, anytime if you guys have any questions, I try to answer back, everything I possibly can, in the comment section. So, got any questions that I can help you with, feel free to ask, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and I got to disconnect this wheel now that I screwed up and forgot to put the drive shaft on before I put the bulkhead in. But I'm going to go ahead and just basically put both drive shafts in here, get that stuff connected up, and I'll bring you guys back when she's pretty much finished up. Well, guys, I'm just throwing the drive shafts back in this thing. I got this side on there. And the easiest way to do these is just obviously pulling off your top. Whoop, wrong size driver. Pulling off your top link here. Just a 2mm and a little nut on the back side. You can wind that out. Nut comes off. Screw should slide out. There we go. And this, you can fold that right down there and slide your drive shaft back in. The bigger ball obviously goes on the wheel side and only will fit one way. Go ahead and line that back up again. Drop that back down on there. Sorry this video turns kind of lengthy, but a lot of times repair videos do. And, I've had a lot of people asking recently about, the rear diff and tearing them down and what's involved. And I have some other videos out there kind of working with this. They're similar cars, the Creighton 6S. But, hey, people asking and they want to see, and they want me to make a video, so figured I'd show kind of just what you got to do to basically, this was mainly just showing the diff, removing the gears and changing out the pinion and that kind of stuff. Wasn't getting into the whole thing, obviously, and two, the car was already partially torn down from initially working on it and trying to find out, investigating what was wrong with it. So I guess it doesn't have all of the repair pieces in here, but hopefully enough for whoever's trying to tear apart the diff or wondering how to take the pinion and stuff out of there. And hopefully it was helpful to you. But now we're going to go ahead. Now we got both drive shafts in. Got the rear diff together. We're going to go ahead and slide the sway bar cover back on. This basically keeps your sway bar in place. Sorry, my big hand's covering the camera. We're going to go ahead and crank those down. And she's about finished up, guys. Be able to rip the Typhon 6S again here. Hopefully the weather gets better. The weather right now, I just got home from work, as always. And I went out today. For any of you guys that, well, I posted the video up early because I was kind of excited. But on the Outcast, sorry, we're going to bounce away from here for a second. But on the Outcast 8S EXB, I had this thing out today for the first time. And with the Castle Mamba Monster XLX2 ESC and motor combo in this thing, it's got the 1100 kV motor, and I'm running the 3939 gearing on this thing. And guys, this is the first car that I can honestly say is just completely overpowered. The thing is just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not used to this much in a car. I mean, I haven't got the thing over half throttle today at the motocross track, so she's a beast. But at any rate, the car is a lot of fun. But I got that thing out today at least before all the rain hit, because now we have a storm coming in. Well, the storm came in, should I say. And it's pretty much going to rain nonstop for the next 3 days. So, not going to unfortunately get to do a whole lot of bashing. Now, these wing mounts can always be fun trying to wiggle them down in here. Probably not able to see what I'm doing very well, but you got to kind of spread the arms that kind of come down inside the car. You got to kind of spread those out a bit and wiggle and push it down in there a bit until it finally snaps into place. And then you got your 2 screws here that's part of the wing mount. Sorry, not showing that very well on camera either. But anyway, there's 2 screws down there that hold the wing on. Put those in, and then get your 2 pins that go through your center brace and the one that's connected to your wing and part of the upper bulkhead area. And remember, the larger spacer, guys, see here, there's 2 spacers. One is shorter and one's longer. The longer one always goes on the motor side, because what that does is push this center drive shaft over out of the way of your center drive shaft, because if you put it the other way around, this is going to sit too close to your drive shaft and you're going to rub a hole through that thing. So make sure you get it on the right way. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and button this thing up, and I'm going to bring you guys back when she's done now. So on a separate note here, guys, I just noticed this, so I figured, anybody that's not aware of this, to keep an eye on it. Your motor wires coming down here from your AC to your motor. When you start noticing them sliding in and out very easily like this, what you want to do is pull them off, grab a small Phillips or a razor blade or something, and basically stick it down there in between those pins and spread those things open again. You'll see there's basically, they're notched out 4 ways. Spread them open a little bit, and they'll be a lot tighter going back on now. Now it's making a proper connection, so keep an eye on those, guys. It's always good, because if those get too loose, you start building up a lot of heat, you lose resistance, and lose power. So keep an eye on those motor leads. All right, guys. Well, she is all back together. Got the last 2 screws in there, the one that goes down here and the one that goes, kind of hard to see, but that one there. Get those 2 screws in there and tighten her up. Got the center brace mounted up. All the drive shafts, everything is spinning nice and free. But that's all there is to it. Not too bad, guys. Very easy to work on. It's also good, guys, we're talking about preventative maintenance and just normal maintenance. I noticed my center brace here was a little loose, so go over your chassis screws. I go after most of them after every single bash. My center braces, this one's, all right, it's pretty much tightening up. This has still got the stock plastic ones, but the aluminum ones I might need to put on this thing also. But basically go over all your screws on the bottom and make sure they're tightened up after every bash. Because when those things start loosening, they'll pull the threads out of the plastic, and you're pretty much done at that point. So keep an eye on those also, guys. All right, guys. Well, she is all back together and ready for her next bash. This car is always a blast. I have a good time with this thing out running all the time. Thing just flies, jumps so nice, so straight, very controllable in the air. This car has been a blast. I've really enjoyed this Typhon 6S. And I got the new Proline Badlands MX tires on this thing. So far, they've been holding up well, too, under the 6S. Because I do have like a 3 or 4 tooth bigger pinion on this thing, so she rips pretty good. Got a lot of wheel speed, and sometimes it's been blowing apart these tires. But so far, these ones have been holding together, fingers crossed. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was helpful to somebody out there maybe tearing into theirs for the first time and just wondering how you get all that stuff apart. Just trying to help anybody out there that be trying to work on these for the first time. I know it can seem a little bit intimidating, but don't worry, guys. You'll get it back together, and you can't damage it too much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So until next time, y'all, be safe, be careful out there. Peace out, everybody.